Hey girls, so I want to get my labor and delivery story up. Sorry about the lighting, but I normally have another lamp down here and it shines right on her face, so I don't have it turned on right now. And I might be rocking a little bit to keep her sleeping, but yeah, I just want to get my story out there. I don't have the timeline from my doula yet, but I feel like I was with it enough to go ahead and kind of tell you everything that happened. Um, and then she did give me the pictures, so she just is going to email me the birth story, and I don't have it yet, but I want to get my story up while my memory of things are fresh in my head. And then when I get my birth story, I may put annotations in with the exact times and things, but that's the only thing the birth story would have written in it that I don't have in my head is the exact times that, like, how long I pushed and things like that. I don't know because I didn't ever look at the clock. But, so my story will start. I had her on November 19th, which was a Saturday. And for the whole week before that, if you watch my vlogs or followed me on Facebook, every night at like 5 o'clock, I would start having contractions. And they were mild to moderately uncomfortable. Some of them were painful, but the pain that I did have was more in my back, like a kind of a tight, achy feeling lower in my back. Every night I had those from like 5 o'clock till sometime in the middle of the night, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. And they would be between 5 and 15 minutes apart, but they never got stronger and they never got like closer together at regular intervals or anything. So I kind of knew they were nothing. That went on for a week. Friday night before she was born, I really wanted to take my son to the zoo one last time for the season. It was still in the 50s here around then, so it was warm, and normally we go closer to Christmas, but I didn't know if I would be up to walking around the zoo, and certainly I wouldn't want to be taking a newborn there in the cold, because it gets, 10 degrees or so in December. So I wanted to take him to see all the lights at the zoo. They decorate everything really nicely, and so we went to the zoo. And that night we came home, we got him to bed and everything. And then we went to bed around midnight. Around 4 in the morning, I woke up and I was having contractions. They woke me up. And I laid in bed for a while and I was like, these feel different. All the pain I was feeling was in my cervix, not, I felt my abdomen getting hard, but the actual pain I felt was like really, really low down. And it was kind of like a sharp pain. Everyone says it feels like menstrual cramps or something. Not what it felt like. The cramps, they kept coming, or not the cramps, but the pain kept coming. I didn't time them, but they were regular. They were coming and coming and coming. And I had some work I needed to finish. So I was like, I woke my husband up and I was like, hey, I've been feeling contractions. They feel different. I think something might be up. I better go finish my work in case I'm really in labor, because I have a 48-hour turnaround deadline for any jobs that I get assigned. And so, if I had the baby, I wouldn't be home in time to finish them. So I ran down here and finished my work. I only had like a half hour or so of work to do, but I was sitting there and like I couldn't focus on what I needed to say in the report that I was writing. And I've written probably like close to 500 of these reports, and I couldn't focus on what I needed to say. So I kind of shut that down. I decided to go and get in the bath. And I sat in there for a while. I called my doula around 7 in the morning. I said, hey, I think I'm in labor. And we had previously discussed with the doula that I would check myself to see if I was dilating. And I know there's like all this controversy, but I think you girls in the community might be a little more open to doing something like that. Because if you chart in TTC, one of the things you can do when you're charting is checking your cervix to see when you're ovulating. So I think a lot of people in this community probably know how to do that. But the Tuesday before, I'd been dilated to a 3, and that's what my OB told me. And so around 7, I checked, before I called the doula, and I was 4, maybe 5 centimeters. Like, I'm not an expert, but I could tell I was more dilated. And that's something you probably want to talk to your doctor about. Like, don't just check yourself, because I did. But I was group B negative, and my water hadn't broken yet. So, as long as those, for me, my doctor and my doula said it was fine if I wanted to check, since I was group B negative and my water had not broken. So yeah, I had checked, and then I called her and I said, hey, I'm having contractions and they're getting pretty uncomfortable. They're coming regularly, and I've dilated more. And she said, okay, well, it sounds like you're in labor. What do you want me to do? And, I told her, you should probably get up and get ready. And I'm just going to labor here for a while. So whenever I decide I really need some help, I'll give you a call. And around 8:30, it was getting really bad. Like, I couldn't really talk when the contractions were coming. I was still in the tub at this time, and I put like a whole towel over me, and got it wet and kept pouring warm water on it. So I don't have a soaking tub, so that was a way to keep my belly and myself warm in the water. But they were getting to the point I was like, I think we should go to the hospital now. While this was happening, my mom got up and came over to take care of my son, and she took care of him the whole time we were in the hospital. So she was there, she was taking care of that. My husband was getting everything in the car. And I called the doula, I said, we're going to the hospital. She was like, all right, I'll meet you there. So she actually beat us to the hospital. My husband we were trying to get out the door, and I was contracting, and we had just got my car back from the shop the night before from when the deer ran into my car. So we didn't even have the car seat installed. We had to take one car seat and install it in my mom's car. We had a lot to do while I was in active labor. And I was like outside and trying to get things done. I had to keep stopping and letting the contractions pass and everything. And my husband, he had to DVR the football game that day. And I remember he was like DVRing it. And I'm like, are you serious? I was like, we need to go. And so the drive to the hospital took about a half hour. So we got to the hospital about 9 o'clock. My doula was sitting in the waiting room where we check in at the hospital, and she was like, you are so low. Like, she said my belly was like really, really low. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like all smiley and everything, and she's like, are you sure you're in labor? And then I got a contraction. She was like, oh yeah, you're in labor. And I typed up this whole sheet that I took with me. I'm not going to show it to you because it has a lot of personal information on it, but it had like my name, my birthday, all my medications, complications with this pregnancy, past histories with pregnancies, any medical things that I had going on. All those questions that they ask you, they were all typed out. And thank goodness, because they kept asking me the same questions over and over again. I was like, I had multiple copies of this because I had a feeling they would get lost each time I had to move to a new location. So I would just give them that, and they'll type it all in and say, is this right? And I would just say yes. So I highly recommend that. So they got me all registered and everything. And I had pre-registered, but this is like in addition to that. So I had a couple contractions out in the waiting room, and then I got taken back to the triage room, and on the way to the hospital, I think I told you girls, my OB said she would take call for me, so I just called her and I said, I think I'm in labor, I think we're having a baby today. And she said, okay. She goes, just go into triage, have them check you, and then admit you. And she said, I'll head into the hospital. So they took me back to the triage room. They let my doula come back, and that's against their policy, but she just walked in with us, and they didn't tell her to get out, thank goodness. But they checked me, and I was 7 centimeters dilated at probably 9:15 in the morning. So they said, oh yeah, they said, your bag of water is bulging. She said, let's get you in the labor and delivery room. So we went down the hallway to the labor and delivery room, and I requested one with a tub, which they had one open, so I got that room. And I have a clip of that. I'll put it in here so you can see it. But they had a nice big tub, and the room is quite a bit larger, which was nice because I had 2 support people with me, and a baby nurse and the doctor, and there's a lot of people in the room. So got in the room. They hooked me up to the monitor to watch 3 or so contractions, but they let the doula hold the sensors on my belly, so I didn't have to get in bed to do that. They had anesthesia come in and put my IV, like the hep lock, which is like an IV port, if I would have needed anything. They had anesthesia come in and do that because I'm a really hard stick, and I was in transition, and it's not easy to hold still, so they brought someone in who could do that quickly. So he got that we tried in my arm, and he couldn't get it in my arm. So we went, and it was right on the top of my hand. Yeah, so we're in the room. They said, the doctor will be here soon. And 20 minutes or so had passed. The doctor came in. And after she looked at that initial strip they ran of the couple contractions, which I personally never saw any contractions on a monitor, which was awesome. But she looked at that and she said, yep. She goes, you can get in a tub if you want. So we filled the tub up, and I labored in there. It was probably 9:45 to 10:45 or so. I think I was in there probably an hour. And that's where all the transition happened. They used a fetal Doppler on me to listen to the baby's heartbeat through a couple contractions, not in a row. They would come up and stick it on and say, yep, baby sounds good. And then when my OB showed up, there was a rocking chair next to the tub that I was in, and she just sat there and she rocked and we talked, and it was really neat. The contractions were getting pretty bad, and I'm a very quiet person, and I got very loud, and I'm kind of self-conscious about it because I am such a quiet person. It's just really not like me to be vocal at all. But it really helped with the pain. My doula said, the noises you're making were good. They are noises you should be making when you're in natural labor, and they do help the process. So, she made me feel good about it.